The street was almost empty that night, the kind of quiet that makes your own footsteps sound louder than they should. The yellow glow of the street lights stretched my shadow long and thin across the road as I walked home alone, my hands buried deep in my pockets. My phone stayed dark. No messages, no missed calls, just silence. I told myself I enjoyed the peace. But the truth sat heavier in my chest with every step. At home, there was someone waiting for me, someone I had promised my life to. Yet lately, we felt like strangers sharing the same walls. Conversations had turned shallow, touch felt distant, even arguments had stopped, replaced by a colder thing, indifference. I hadn't planned to walk alone tonight. It just happened, like many things had lately. I was halfway down the block when I heard a voice behind me. Hey, excuse me. I slowed, my instincts tightening. I turned slightly, enough to see him standing a few steps away under a streetlight. He was an African man, clearly an adult, tall, calm, with an easy confidence in the way he stood, hands relaxed, no aggression in his posture. Just presence. Sorry, he said with a small smile. Didn't mean to scare you. I shook my head. It's fine. I should have kept walking. I knew that. But something about the way he looked at me, not hungry, not rushed, just attentive, made my feet stay rooted to the pavement. You live around here? He asked. Yeah, just up ahead. He nodded. Same. I saw you pass by before. You always walk alone this late? The question felt harmless. Still, it brushed against something raw inside me. Usually, I replied. There was a pause. Not awkward. Thoughtful. I'm Malik, he said. If you don't mind me saying, you look like you're carrying a lot tonight. I almost laughed at that. Almost denied it, but the words slipped past my guard. Yeah, I said quietly. Maybe. He glanced toward a house nearby, its porch light glowing softly. I was just heading in. If you want, you could come sit for a minute. No pressure. Just talk. Sometimes it helps not to be alone. Every warning bell in my head started ringing at once. I thought of my partner. The promises. The life we'd built. I thought of how wrong this felt, and how tired I was of always doing the right thing while feeling so empty. It's late, I said, more to convince myself than him. Of course, Malik replied easily. Just thought I'd ask. He turned slightly, already accepting my answer. And that's when fear was replaced by something worse. Regret. At the idea of walking away. I stood there under the streetlight, caught between the home I was supposed to return to and the quiet invitation hanging in the air. One step forward would keep everything the same. One step sideways would change something I couldn't undo. My heart beat faster as I realized the most dangerous moments don't announce themselves. They whisper, and I hadn't walked away yet. The door closed behind me with a soft, final sound. Not a slam, not a warning, just a quiet click that seemed louder than it should have been. I stood there for a moment, my back to the door, listening to my own breathing as if I had just stepped into a different life. Malik's place was simple, clean, warm. A small lamp glowed in the corner, casting soft shadows across the walls. It didn't feel dangerous. That almost made it worse. Make yourself comfortable, he said gently. Tea, water. Water's fine, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I sat on the edge of the couch, my hands folded tightly in my lap. This was temporary, I told myself. Just a conversation, just a pause before going home. Nothing more. Malik handed me the glass and sat a short distance away, not too close, not too far. He didn't rush, he didn't stare, he waited, and somehow, that patience loosened something inside me. So, he said quietly, what's been weighing on you? I hesitated. I had spent months swallowing my feelings, convincing myself they didn't matter. Yet here, with someone who didn't know my history or expect anything from me, the words came easier. I feel invisible, I admitted. At home, in my own life. He nodded slowly, as if he understood more than I'd said. That kind of loneliness hurts the most. I laughed under my breath. You sound like you've been there. I have, he said. Still am, some days. Our eyes met. Not flirtatious. Honest. And that honesty felt intimate in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt slippery, unreal. We talked about small things, work, routines, the way nights seem longer when you don't want to go home. With every shared thought, the space between us shrank, not physically at first, but emotionally. I became aware of how close he was when our knees brushed accidentally. I pulled back instinctively, my heart racing. "Sorry," I said quickly. "It's okay," Malik replied. He didn't move closer, didn't pull away either. He just looked at me, searching my face. "If this feels like too much, you can go." That was the moment I should have stood up. Instead, I stayed seated. I thought of my partner again, of the distance between us, the unanswered questions, the quiet nights spent staring at opposite walls. I told myself this wasn't betrayal. Not yet. I was just being heard. But my body knew before my mind did. The silence between us thickened. Charged. When Malik reached out, it wasn't sudden. His hand hovered first, giving me time to stop it. I didn't. The touch was light, reassuring, and devastating. Guilt surged through me even as comfort washed over my chest. Two emotions colliding, neither willing to give way. I felt myself leaning in, drawn not by desire alone, but by the ache of being seen. Somewhere deep inside, a line blurred. And though I hadn't crossed it completely, I knew with absolute clarity that I was no longer standing safely on the other side. The night air felt colder when I stepped back outside. The door closed behind me again, but this time it didn't whisper, it echoed. Each step away from Malik's house felt heavier than the last, as if the ground itself were resisting me. I kept my head down, afraid that if I looked up, the guilt written on my face would be visible to the whole street. Nothing about the road had changed. Same streetlights, same silence. But I had. My hands trembled as I slid them into my pockets. I replayed everything in fragments, the way he listened, the warmth of his touch, the moment I stopped resisting. It hadn't been loud or reckless. That somehow made it worse. There was no single moment I could point to and say, that's when I betrayed them. It had happened slowly, quietly, like erosion. By the time I reached home, my chest felt tight, my breathing shallow. I paused at the door, staring at the handle as if it might burn me. I thought about turning around, about confessing to someone, anyone, just to release the pressure building inside me. But I went in. The house was calm, too calm. My partner sat on the couch, scrolling through their phone, looking up only briefly to say, "You're late." "Yeah," I replied, lost track of time. The lie came easily. That scared me more than anything else. They nodded and went back to their screen. No questions, no suspicion. The normalcy was unbearable. I wanted anger, confrontation, something that matched the chaos in my head. Instead, I got routine. Later, in the bathroom, I stared at my reflection without really seeing it. I washed my hands twice. Then a third time, as if that could erase what I felt clinging to me. When I finally lay down in bed, sleep refused to come. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt that closeness again. The comfort, the guilt that followed seconds later like a shadow. Then my phone vibrated. A message. "Did you get home safe, Malik?" My heart jumped. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering above the reply. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to draw a hard line and never look back. Another part, quieter but persistent, felt seen again just reading his words. I didn't respond. I placed the phone face down, but the glow lingered in my mind. I turned onto my side, facing my partner's back. They were already asleep, breathing steady, unaware of the fracture forming beside them. That was when it hit me. Betrayal isn't always about bodies. Sometimes it begins the moment you choose silence over honesty. I lay there in the dark, caught between two lives, one built on promises, the other on temptation, and realized that even if no one ever found out, I would. And that knowledge pressed heavier on my chest than any secret ever had. Morning light crept into the room like it didn't belong there. I hadn't slept. I just lay still, listening to my partner breathe, counting the seconds between each rise and fall of their chest. Daylight was supposed to bring clarity. Instead, it exposed everything I had managed to avoid in the dark. In the kitchen, routine tried to save us. Coffee poured. Dishes clinked. My partner talked about their plans for the day, their voice casual, familiar. I nodded at the right moments, smiled when expected, played my part so well it scared me. "Are you okay?" they asked suddenly. My hands froze around the mug. "Yeah," I said, too quickly. "Just tired." They studied me for a moment longer than usual, then looked away. "You've seemed distant lately." Quote. The words landed softly, but they cracked something open. I wanted to confess right there. To tell them everything. To beg for forgiveness before the guilt swallowed me whole. But fear won. After they left, the house felt hollow. I stood in the quiet, staring at my phone on the table like it was a loaded weapon. One message waited. "I've been thinking about you." That was all it said. I imagined Malik standing under that same streetlight, calm and patient, offering understanding without demands. I imagined the ease of being with someone who didn't expect me to be anything but honest in that moment. Then I imagined the look on my partner's face if they knew. My finger hovered over the screen. Replying would be easy, so would deleting the message. Both felt like choices that would define me in ways I wasn't ready to face. I grabbed my jacket and stepped outside, needing air, needing distance, from the house, from the phone, from myself. The street looked ordinary in the daylight. Harmless. It was hard to believe how much damage had been done in such a quiet place. As I walked, I reached the corner where everything had begun. The same porch, the same door. I stopped. I could turn back now. Go home. Confess. Try to repair what I had fractured before it shattered completely. Or I could knock. The phone vibrated in my pocket again. I didn't look at it. I stood there, caught between two paths, knowing that whichever one I chose would cost me something I could never fully recover. The door remained closed, and for the first time, I understood that some stories don't end with a decision. They end with the moment just before it.